Yeah, you would definitely have the creepiest background, Tyler.
Yeah, it's really it creeps me out a little.
I'm trying to create a vibe.
But it feels like are you standing right now?
Yeah, I'm standing.
Oh my gosh, that is wow. That's all the wrong stuff. Okay.
All right, here we are. Welcome everybody to Practical Shooting After Dark. We have a very strational episode tonight. Is I would say it's going to be an in-depth retrospective, I suppose, with Mr. Phil Strader, former president of USPSA and national champion of a thing. I think the single stack nationals.
Yeah, that doesn't count. It's one time.
Well,
fluke. It's an easy match to win.
There was a.
I agree with everything but one of those things. Rob eclipsing the age of 60 made it substantially easier to win, I think, to win that match.
Yeah. I don't know. I was shocked that he pulled it off the last couple of years, and the last year everyone just shot horribly. But the year before that, it was legit. That was pretty impressive.
All right, and on deck tonight, our Area 3 director, everybody's favorite, Mr. Matt Hopkins.
Hi, everybody.
Our man in Area 1, Wansa Kim.
Hi.
And Tyler Turner. I have to commend you, sir. In the last few days, you took a ginormous dump on Bruce 6 on his doorstep in the gentlest possible way. But the way you summarized him as an area director was perfect. I think you said no amount of emails, phone calls, Facebook polls, or anything else is going to change his mind about anything. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I
it was amazing.
What happens
I don't want to be a dick, but I mean, it's the truth. So what can you do?
Well, no, I mean, you told the truth without being a dick. That's not exactly my strategy all of the time, but sometimes I try. Speaking of being a dick and telling the truth, Phil, I think at this state, with what's going on in USPSA politically on the eve of some...
You mentioned you did.
I did. I introduced. Well, I said our man in Area 1.
He did. He did say that.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into the discussion now.
Wait, are we going to talk anything about shooting? Because this isn't...
No. This is all drama. Okay. 100% drama. This is why people are going to love this, Phil. They're going to be like, Phil was on? Yes. Oh, well, that's amazing. All right. We're on the eve of some bylaw changes, which makes, I think, the discussion with our last part-time president of USPSA. You were president of USPSA till when?
I was elected to start my term in 2012, and I ran until the end of 2015. So I did 012 to 16, basically.
Okay.
What board members were on there that are still currently on the board right now?
I worked with Sherwin. He was the vice president at the time. Bruce Gary.
Bruce won. In our we have a whole vernacular on here, Phil.
Yeah.
There's terms.
Yeah. Bruce
like
won.
Like little fun names. Bruce 1, Bruce 6, Porta Potty Jake. You know, there's a whole vernacular like BOC. You know, Midwit Cabal. This whole shit. Like, I'm sorry, Phil, you're in for it tonight.
I'm catching up on my. I'll get my terminologies right, but yeah, just Sherwin and Bruce came on. Bruce came on after Chuck Anderson. He rage quit basically, and we needed.
He imploded, did he not?
Well, I mean, he was pretty passionate about. At the time, we had we were trying to fill an executive director position, and Kim had been working under Dave Williams for a long time, and she had basically picked up a lot of the duties that executive director had to do, and most of that was budget, but a lot of it was office, keeping people in the office and managing the office. And it came down to basically her and an outsider who, I thought was a good guy. He seemed relatively competent, but he didn't have a background in the sport. He didn't know the sport. And that was kind of what put the vote, it was, she got voted in 5-4. And the people who were very, very much against it, which was Area 6 and Area 1, which was Chuck and Jay Korn, I think at the time, they quit. because of that, and we had to get people in there. So honestly, I mean, 4 years, in the 4 years that I was president, Sherwin was the only area director that stayed for 4 years. Every single other area had either 2 or 3 area directors in there. So it's needless to say, it made for a challenge to get a lot of stuff done. But you know, that's the board. You're gonna have a lot of different personalities, and trying to manage all those and get them on the same page sometimes a challenge. Is that politically correct enough?
No.
So yeah,
Throw in some trans jokes next time, Phil.
I was, as you mentioned, I was part-time. And our administrative staffing and the grunt work. Actually, some of the coordination of nationals outside of what I was doing was all handled by the office staff and executive director and that kind of thing. So, and of course, the president at the time I was there was just another vote on the board. My job was to manage the nationals, to get the contract signed as fast as possible. Sometimes that fell through, and and that was it. And steer the agenda, and that was it. And the agenda was simple. It was just a matter of emailing all the area directors and saying, hey, what would you guys like to see on the agenda? I also took suggestions from the membership, and the agenda was formed from that. And it wasn't.
Did you have like an overriding theme as far as what the agenda was over the course of 4 years, like some big picture thing you were trying to get done or see happen or like whatever?
I mean, the long-term goal was just to kind of bring the sport back to the shooters, to make nationals special again. For those of you, I mean, I'm not sure when you guys,
I remember the 2014 nationals in St. George. It was like 24 stages, 4 days, right before everybody went to World Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what you were trying to pull off?
But yeah, my goal was, I mean, honestly, it was a little selfish. I like, my mentality is I always want to shoot against the best every time, all the time. And if I can get everyone into a certain division, I will make a dedicated divisional nationals if I can.
Like the production nationals in 2015 when we had.
Yes, that was amazing. That was one of the.
Two super squads worth of guys.
Right. We had.
That's the most important match I ever won because you structured it that way.
Right. I mean, that was a huge win. You were shooting with the super squad, and it was one of those years that they had split the divisions, and you were a strictly production shooter, and a lot of those people that shot were shooting other divisions. So no one shot. No, I wouldn't say no one, but your upper echelon shooters weren't shooting production the year before. So the super squad they said, well, we want to put the top 10 guys on the super squad, similar to what they're doing now. And because of the interest, because production was its own division, yeah, you're right. We had a B squad, and I was on it, and Rob Latham was on it, and Max, I think Ben Stoger was on it. No, not Ben Stoger. Bob Vogel, you're Ben Stoger. Dave Savigny. We had 170 national and world titles on the B squad, and it was awesome. You won that, and I think the next 7 or 8 positions were the people on that other squad. So impressive. But yeah, that was the idea. The idea was, I strategically kind of made the nationals, like you said, I always tried to steer it in a direction that would give people the best chances to make world shoot teams, because that's kind of what we want to do. We want to go to the world shoot. We want to field really good teams, and we want to, represent that. That was a big deal at the time. And like you said, the year of the world shoot when the nationals didn't really matter, I wanted it to make it very big and grandiose and similar to what the world shoot would have been, and I think that's what we did. But it was a great match. I remember that one. It was a lot of fun.
It seems like after you left the board, the agenda shifted to make more money for the organization.
I believe you. Are you telling me, or is that a question, or is that, what is that?
That's that was a question. I said, if this is what it looks like to me, then, and everybody's like, huh, yeah, I wonder what Phil thinks of that. I wonder if Phil has anything. Hey, and if you can't say anything nice, you don't have to say anything at all, Phil.
It's not, look, it's kudos to the president that took after me, took over the business. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know that I was able to double a salary. Well, plus, and just change my position to full time. I didn't know that was an option, because trust me, if I'd known that, I would have quit Remington. I mean, I was getting pulled in two different directions. You guys know this. I was working full time with Remington, making crap money, and I was working part time for USPSA, which wasn't a part time gig. And I was getting pulled. My bosses at Remington were saying, "You're spending too much time with this IPSC thing," and all the board were beating me down because I was spending too much time with Remington. So I was always getting pulled in two different directions.
Phil, could I just give you that? I think in retrospect, at the time, everybody was too hard on you. I mean, the culture shifted a lot after you left the presidency. Maybe you didn't notice this, but the Foley way of like riding on the golf cart and kind of acting very important, that sort of thing. This was not the Phil Strader way. Like you're in the squad with everyone, like, "Hey Phil, when are you going to do this?" And you're like, "Yeah, okay. Like I'll do." Like you just like took shit all the time, as I recall.
I did, and that was the job. I mean, look, here's the way I look at it. And I was listening to your podcast. I was listening to this show. I do listen to it, especially now because it's the only way I can keep up with all the stuff. And I was thinking, it's so similar how things have turned in USPSA as how things are turning in our government, right? Yes. I mean, our government has failed to realize that they work for the constituency. And it's the same thing with USPSA. USPSA's job is to work for the members, to make the members not dependent upon USPSA, but the other way around. And I think that has kind of gotten lost to a degree. And like I said, good on Mike for being able to go in there and impose his will and get the board on board to make that kind of money. Like I said, I feel like, and I don't know if that was the wrong way to go, because let's face it, if Mike had been more of a, how do I say this without being mean? If he'd been more of a leader by example instead of a leader by force, if he had earned the respect of his membership rather than trying to demand the respect of his membership, maybe the way that he set the organization up wouldn't have been, or the way he steered it wouldn't be as bad. But the problem is when you have that much power and that much autonomy as a leader, as the leader of the USPSA, when you start, hiring your friends and putting them in positions that aren't really real and they don't matter, and you're just starting to throw salaries around, and you're not leading by example, it becomes problematic. It shows that the system can be broken, and it was. And
hold on.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Hold on. What? A lot of people would say this, so I have to say it. Wasn't he empowered by the board to do this the whole time?
Yes.
I mean, to act like just Mike did this is.
No, I mean, he didn't go in there and say, "Hey, do you guys think I should get her?" I mean, I'm sure he was pushing it in a direction that he wanted to go. The board was just seeing a way to maybe, cleanly get rid of an executive director they didn't want, and to empower one person with a bit more responsibility.
Wait, so I mean, that's good to point out that context. Like in that situation, they had Kim, you're right, they wanted to get rid of. They felt they had to. And
I don't disagree with them. And that talking about.
Right. I mean, but that was a big nightmare for them. So they had to hit the eject button, and they transferred the power to the most convenient person.
Right.
Which is, I mean, to me anyway, and a lot of it, I mean, this is what they're doing now. This is literally the same thing. It's like, okay, the power resides over here with this president position. It's like, well, we're not going to control that soon. So now we're going to shift it over here to a managing director we can control, and likely the fix is already in for someone. Yes. That's the way it looks to me.
I think you're right. I think that, listen, I'll say this straight up. I'm friends with everyone on the board except for Murphy. I don't know him. I mean, I'm sure he'd be nice. So I'm friendly with everyone on the. I'm friendly with everyone on the board. Okay.
I was
And
going to say, like, you don't seem like you'd be friends with Bruce one, but that's just me guessing.
Hey, listen. I'll tell you this. I recommended Bruce. I begged Bruce to come in and fill in for Area 1 because when Bruce was originally an area director, he was a different. He seemed different. I mean, he seems.
Like he wasn't doing this kind of crazy stuff.
There was no underhanded, weird. I mean, he always likes to pontificate, and he is a smart guy, and he always likes to believe that he's the smartest guy in the room. But you don't have to make everyone try to believe that too. But I'm not saying that as a bad thing because he is very intelligent. But I was surprised how things went with him. But I will say this of all the board, at least I want to believe this, and I know for some of them it's true. I think they think that they're doing what's best for the organization, but I think that they're scared to death that if they don't have complete control of the organization, then they can't manage it. And I think Matt scares them because if Matt runs and gets elected, which is, it's a very, very real and plausible possibility that they're not going to be, they don't want to give up all that control to someone who's not going to stay aligned and stay on their. I mean, you're right. That's exactly what it's turning into. It looks like they're scared to death that Matt is going to take things, or a president that has Matt's values will say that. I don't want to say Matt is going to get elected, but someone that has the values that aren't theirs, that represents the people that they think don't matter, which are top shooters, because they have said that, well, they say top shooters don't give a crap about the sport. I mean, it's in more or less words.
Well, I have to say, Phil, they don't think top shooters matter. Like, if you're a B class guy who has been shooting for 2 years and you just became an RO, they don't think you matter either.
Right. No, you're right.
They don't. The only people they care about are guys who, I don't know, have been in the club for like 20 years. Ted, I don't know if you've been listening to the Go Fast Don't Suck stuff. I have been listening to it. Ted Murphy talked about it a lot, the culture of the organization. And it seems like the culture is kind of code for like in the club, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if there's guys who are in the club and not in the club, like I've been around USPSA for a long time, but I don't think I'm a part of the culture. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Or at least what they define as a culture. I mean, it's completely personal. I don't know, man. I'm scared to death that I'm scared they're making moves that, in the grand scheme of things, I think what they know is no matter what they do, if they ignore the membership, if they ignore the comments and just do it, new to the president position and hire in this person that can manage everything, which is kind of that they can control, and this person now can control. They're going to control the person, and the person is going to control the president. So they're kind of playing puppet masters here. I think no matter what happens, I think the organization will continue to strive. I'm just concerned about the long-term effects on what will happen. The long-term effects of these decisions being made, and the fact that they're making these bylaw changes. They're rushing them through so quickly, and then they're trying to close the door behind themselves by changing the amount of votes it's going to take to go back to the way it was. I mean, it's basically, this is the end. This is the way it's going to be, and there's no way to change it because it takes almost a completely unanimous vote to update it. And
well, around Instagram and elsewhere, there was this hashtag floated. I think it was like CUDA USA, USPSA, CUDA USPSA. And at first I thought that, that's okay. That's a little silly, but what it is, I mean, it's a coup when you do that. Yeah. Like you said in the last one, it's you get it up to the roof and you pull up the ladder behind you.
Yeah. Well, that's
well, to me, that's such arrogance. When you have these guys thinking that at any point before and any point after, they have the vision for the sport that should sustain and should persist throughout time. That more than anything is a display of arrogance.
Yeah, or fear.
Or fear. But I probably a deadly combination of both.
Yeah. Yeah, I get why they're doing what they're doing. I just don't know if everyone gets it. I think a lot of people get it, obviously, because of the number of comments that are going back saying, let's get the special election done, give us the president we want, and then you can start making the changes as the board, as the organization sees fit, instead of the way they're doing it. And look, I have to believe. Look, the second you stop believing in the process is the second the organization falls. It's just like, and I keep going back to this, the Democrats were brilliant in that the Democrats in the election were brilliant in that of course, they cheated. Okay, they elected a president that couldn't have gotten elected because of those many votes. But what the real goal there?
I'm going to lose my fucking YouTube channel for this, but whatever.
Sorry. But the goal there is, I don't think the goal is not to put someone in office that's not supposed to be there. I think the goal was to discredit the system. People already have a hard enough time getting out and voting, right? And now, how much harder is that going to be when they have the impression, because of these questionable election tactics, when they are questioning whether or not their vote even matters anymore? Why would I go out of my house and go vote if I'm worried that it's not going to matter? And the same thing could be said for USPSA. If all these people are saying they want to do a certain thing and they want to go a certain direction, and the board doesn't do it, they're destabilizing the whole point of this, which is electing people to represent them. It worries the shit out of me for long term of the organization. And maybe, maybe that's what happens in 10 years. Maybe USPSA is a business like IDPA.
I mean, Phil, that's good. And this is why that I've been putting the pressure on these guys, because it's not really about Matt. Like, it's not like, do you want Matt to be president? Do you not? Do you want a strong president? Or do you want a managing director? Like, that's not really at issue. The bottom line is, like, these guys are getting hammered with emails and comments. The membership doesn't like this. Those of them that are paying attention to it. I think we're having the better of the argument on the internet for sure.
Right.
Like, we've made a mockery of these guys, and they're not, like, it's like they're not listening. It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to see the danger of not listening, because if you don't, like I said, if you don't listen to your membership, if you do whatever you're going to want to do, and you've now confirmed that the members' opinions don't matter, then you have turned it into a business. You are now no longer a membership-based organization. You are now IDPA, where one person makes the rules and one person makes the decisions, and that's the way it is. And maybe that's the direction we're going. I don't know, but it's not about Matt. You're right. It's about, they're scared to death that they're going to get a president in there that they A, can't control, or B, they go down the road of just, whatever you want, president, like they did in the last one, and getting themselves someone who can't control themselves, socially. That's another risk. I mean, there's a lot of risks, and I think they're scared to death of it. And look, what's the worst that happens if they keep the system the way it is? They elect a president, and it's not necessarily Matt, but they elect a strong president who is opinionated and maybe doesn't see things the same way they do. What's the impact? What do they have to lose? What's the damage to the organization? There is none, because when it all comes down to it, the president is still just 1/9 of the vote. It doesn't matter. He may be in charge of the Nationals, and he may have check writing abilities. I don't know. He seemed to really love that part. But he's still only 1/9 of the organization. He represents the organization as a figurehead, and that's it. And go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to say a counterpoint that we hear often is that there's so few comments coming in compared to the membership at whole. Everybody else has answered this already, but what do you think about that? That they only got X number of comments and it's only 1% of the entire organization.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier when I said they're resting on the morals of hey, most of our membership, they just want to go shoot club matches and they don't care about all this stuff. And that's kind of what they're using as an example. The problem is their non-involvement in the sport doesn't necessarily make it good. I mean, they're not involved in the decision making. The people that are involved, the people that they're supposed to be representing, are the people like us. I mean, I'll use myself as an example. I know what most of the club shooters that I shoot with, I know how they feel because I talk to them about it. You know, those people aren't going to get on a forum. They're not going to get on a podcast. They're not going to write their area director. They're just going to go, like you said, and shoot their club matches. But they have opinions. And people, the ground roots, the ground level people, the people that make the foundation of the sport, they shoot around people like us, the more involved people, and we get their information, we get their concerns, and we listen to them. And if you open your ears at a match, you can actually hear how other people feel about it. And so, yeah, they may be getting only, I don't know, what is it, 10%? Well, they say 1%, but it's actually like 5 or 6%. They may be getting 5 or 6% of the membership, but how many of those people have another 5% of general membership that they shoot with every single week? I mean, I can tell you a lot of people, if not one of them is involved.
This was like, I noticed you at the in-person meeting that they live streamed at Nationals. Like, you were very nice to them, by the way. But I think there was 50 or 60 guys in the room, and they made a point sometime during the meeting to talk about how few people were there and how, you only speak for yourselves and your opinions don't let you know what I mean? Like, they were kind of like downplaying just the people that showed up, but it's like they fail to understand that it's a special type of dude who goes to the in-person meeting. They take time out of their nationals schedule to like go to that.
Right.
And those people have lots of friends, and their opinion does pull a lot of other opinions. Yeah. And they are seriously pissing off a lot of opinionated people right now.
So here's what happens is I'll use myself as an example because I like to do that. So let's just say I'm vocal, right? And I am passionate about the direction this organization is going. And in my opinion, the board just completely disregards everything that's being told to them by the core membership. That means the 1 or 2 percenters, I guess. So they completely disregard those people, right? And they do whatever they're going to want to do. What's going to happen to these 1 or 2 percenters? Yeah, these people under them, the ones that the people look up to them, or they shoot with them, or they always look forward to them coming to the matches, they're going to notice that these people stop coming, or they're going to be so disenchantized with the decisions of the board and the way the direction is going. What do you think that's going to funnel down to? It's going to funnel down to your rank and file members who just want to go shoot club matches. If you start showing your disdain for the organization and the fact that the board never listens, that's one way to get the lower, the people who aren't getting involved. That's one way to get them involved, is to tell them, hey, your board doesn't care about you, and all of a sudden they're going to want to get their asses involved. But if you go back and say, hey, we kind of went in this direction, we told them what we wanted, and the board listened, then you're giving them some confidence, and they don't have to get their pitchforks and their freaking torches and I don't know, man. It's so frustrating.
I want to circle back. I'm sure you love circle back, John. I want to circle back to the comment you made about made up positions. Like, what can you give me an example of like a made up position at USPSA? Would that be like Troy having 2 assistants? Is that what's the financial one? I forget.
Chief Financial Officer?
I think it's DFO.
DFO, what's that?
Director of Finance and Operations.
Is that a real one, Phil? Is that what you were referring to? Not to pin you down.
I don't think it is. I don't understand the point of that position. I mean, we don't have 17 different accounts and divisions to have to deal with. I mean, it's USPSA, and it's money in, money out. There's one flow of money coming in. I don't understand what that position is. I understand. I don't know how that position became a thing. I don't know much about it. Is Gary Nash? Is he the guy that does that?
That's the guy. That's a name I hear floated for managing director. I don't know if that's related.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the background of who he is, where he's from, who he's friends with. I assumed he was friends with Mike. I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't understand what that position is for. I don't get it. I mean, Jake, as much as I like Jake, I'm not ashamed to say that I do like him. I think he's a cool guy to hang out with. he's basically doing what the president's supposed to do. And I mean, and I've dealt with Jake on a professional level as far as him trying to get prizes for nationals and that kind of thing. So I know he's working that side of it. So I don't want to say Jake doesn't do anything, but he's basically doing what the president should do. He's doing what I did, and he's doing what Danielle did. I mean, Danielle worked for me. I paid her $800 a month. USPSA paid her $800 a month. $800 a month to get prizes for nationals, which it was usually in the $100,000 to $150,000 range. Still challenged, and we were able to do it with an executive director that made, I don't know what Kim made. I think she was in the $75,000, $80,000 range. A president that made $55,000, and a sponsorship coordinator that made $800 a month.
Who did the accounting?
That was we had an accountant, part-time accountant at Cedro Woolley or Burlington actually, that Kim hired. So it was a part-time gig. And they hired them a few months before the budget was due, and of course the tax season.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To me, hearing you talk about that, the thing that comes to mind is it's almost a shell game of positions and responsibilities where it is shifted around, new things created, old things abolished. Like, you had mentioned earlier that you were in a quote unquote part-time position. You weren't working part-time hours. I'm just curious, if you had to put on average, how many hours a week were you putting into USPSA?
I figured that out because I was getting asked that by the board, and so I started logging the hours I was working, and it fluctuated quite a bit. But I would say I was putting a lot of time in around January because we were preparing for SHOT Show. I was going there a lot. I was putting a lot of time in around NRA Show because we had a booth there. So I would ban that every now and then. So prepping for that, going to that took a little bit of time. I never counted going to matches. I mean, I did travel to matches, but I never really counted that. But the time behind the nationals, probably 3 months before nationals, during nationals, a month after nationals, at least 40, 45, 50 hours a week. On downtimes, not much, 20, 25 hours a week. And of course, before and after board meetings, it was a full 2, 3, 4 days in a row work. And so, yeah, I mean, I probably averaged 30, 35 hours a week if I had to, put all the higher work hours in and the lower work hours in. It was a lot. I mean, it was a lot of work.
And you still couldn't, like, the general consensus was that emailing you was kind of a way, because you didn't, like, most people would email you about stuff that you didn't even control as the president.
Yeah, I got a lot of, the president at USPSA gets a lot of rando emails. I would, typically if it was something about like questions about, like, the biggest thing when I was president, one of the bigger things was banning Paul when he was caught cheating on the timer. And so I did get questions about that, and I would answer those as frankly as I could. But usually there were questions that could be like, look, you should definitely talk to your area director. If it was one of those grassroots kind of issues, talk to your section coordinator. And if that doesn't work, talk to your area director. And if that doesn't work, come talk to me. And then every now and then they would say, I tried all that, and nothing worked, and I would address it. But you're right, I didn't engage. That was my biggest downfall, I guess, was I didn't engage every comment on Facebook, or I didn't engage every.
Well, I would say you didn't engage hardly at all online in public.
No, not much.
But I don't really think you had time for it, is what I would say from the sounds of it.
It was, I stayed pretty busy. I would find times on the weekends. I would try to find times on the weekend to do it, because obviously I couldn't do it during Remington time because I was traveling all the time. I was literally on the road most of the time. But I will say that a lot of my time was involved in trying to manage Rudy Project from murdering you I'm doing a lot of research on.
You know how I am, dude.
I was
Like,
getting letters and
like I put out a meme, and then if people start squealing, I just go harder.
yeah, just pouring gas on the fire. Yeah, so I was dealing with that every now and then. It was like every month it seemed you did something that just absolutely. I mean, it's just dealing with little fires. That's all it is. It's all you're just stamping out little fires all the time. And
How would you, if you were on the board now, how would you be enjoying my antics, Mr. Phil?
Listen, if I were on the board, I would try to be as transparent as possible. And you know, I like I said, I think the board is scared that you're getting more people involved than they want to get involved. I think.
No, they count on people not getting involved.
Right. No, I think what you're doing is great because it's getting people, it's getting attention. It's putting spotlights on things and need to have spotlights on them, and it's actually building awareness because if people like you, and I use you as an example, but there's a lot of people out there, you know, to Bill Duda, you know, he's staying on top of this to a degree, you know. There's a lot of people who are leading the charge to kind of show people what's going on. I mean, honestly, look, who releases a bylaw change without tracking the changes? I cannot believe that they did that. I couldn't believe it. I saw the download. I got my email from USPSA. I clicked on the document, and I was like, well, wait a minute, where's the redactions? Where are the changes? I couldn't believe they didn't put that. So if it weren't for you guys, or guys like you guys, you know, putting a spotlight on things and showing, okay, we did the work for you, so here's all the differences, it helps a lot. It drives involvement. Whether it's the kind of attention you like or don't like, that shouldn't be the important part. The important part is you're getting people involved, you're giving them a version of what's going on. The problem is USPSA, they've started that podcast, and I feel like they're, instead of just talking to the membership, I feel like they're just putting up these, you know, these prepared statements, and they're just saying kind of the same thing over and over again. It seems a little repetitive. And
well, this is a good time for me to, like, I was going to bring this up later, but I'll bring it up now. I put out a short little video. Most of you saw it, I think, making some very specific accusations. I said I didn't believe Leighton when he said there wasn't a nefarious plot. I said these guys were kind of conspiring to block Matt. I put that video out, and every word of it was true, it turns out. But I still got Bruce 1 ran me through the mud on Facebook. He beat the hell out of me for that. And it was all true. And he knew it was true. And the memo came out after that, and everyone's acting like this didn't happen. Like the board, they're all acting like that shit didn't take place. Like everybody read that. Like, we saw what you did. Like, what's going on, guys? And they got nothing to say. Nothing.
Oh, well, Ben, I'll tell you, you are absolutely the best person to be in this position because you're kind of paranoid now as it is. You're a conspiracy theorist, and no one likes you. So you are in the perfect position to do. I love you, by the way. I love you. I've always liked you, but yeah, I think that's gonna. They'll probably use that against you because they're betting on the fact that that people won't take you seriously because of your background. Because you were a controversial guy back in the day.
Yeah, no, now, I'm very controversial and all of that.
Now you're just kind of a big teddy bear. Now you're just
now I'm nice. But yeah. No, and actually it plays to my advantage, like that I'm so disliked by so many people, because it just, like, the haters are like they're finding their best. They're doing their damnedest to attack us. And they don't really have a whole lot to go with except for, hey, he's an asshole, or
they're turning it into an us versus him or us versus Ben's boys kind of thing. And the problem is if you're, and I've seen this, And now that I've done this podcast, I will probably be lumped in that group. But the board, I'm sure they just look disdainfully upon you and your friends, the people that you talk to and engage with you, and to a degree agree with you, because I agree with a lot of the things you're bringing up. I also I do generally believe that the board, as a group, collectively, I think they want what's best for the organization, what they think they want is best for the organization. I don't know if they have malice towards the organization as a whole. I just think they may have lost touch with what it is. Maybe, I don't know. It's a tough situation to be in, and the problem is what they don't understand is, or maybe they do understand. Maybe they're starting to understand it is, like I said, if Matt were to get elected, I'm using that as an example, and completely butted heads with everyone on the board, nothing changes. I mean, nothing's going to change. I mean, they'll try to do everything they can to discredit you or discredit the new president, and eventually try to find ways to get him out. But I don't think the organization is going to be affected if they bring a president in that they don't agree with. Now, I do think that I think what they're trying to do, what initially what they were trying to do is they were trying to organize a bylaw change to possibly alleviate another situation where a man like Foley could come in and do the damage he did. I think that's what they're using as a smokescreen, maybe, to kind of move the organization in the direction they want to go. And I think that's kind of what people think. They threw everything on Foley. Like you said, they went hand in hand with them, step by step with them all the way through the process. And now they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and they're using that as, we don't want this to happen again, so we're changing the bylaws to make sure it doesn't happen. Where I think there might be other stuff at play, personally.
Phil, I agree with a lot of the things you say. So like one of the things you said is like the club, people who cares about the club shooting, club match, level 1 match, things like that. Just people who are not really speaking their opinions yet, maybe. Like they're looking up to certain group of people, like the top shooters, it could be, or it could be well-behaved or match director, things like that. So there's definitely like a group that's more respected in our sport, in my opinion.
Yep.
And of course, when they're, like you said, the opinion goes down from it. And I think the reason why bylaw change right now is being so rushed, and also trying to make it before the elected president or special election, is because the opinion will start form more and more and more. And now maybe the feedback or the comment, maybe 1% of our membership, maybe, but that's going to grow as time goes by because the opinions go down. Because not a lot of people actually pay attention to what the board is doing. Well, first of all, yes, like we talked about, there's no transparency. The board, even the USPSA podcast, there wasn't really significant information how like their intent or actually what's happening in the board meeting, or documentation, things like that. And that's why when one of the document was released and one of the area director admitted that that's from the area director, like the leaked document, things like that, as it's coming out, what's happening is, first of all, there's information coming out to the members. And in my interpretation, the board doesn't want it. I'm not saying that every single board members, but in general, for the bylaw change, they don't want people to have the opinion formed. So what I'm seeing on one of the document I'm seeing, like I said, area director's document, is like literally it says the howler monkeys, yeah, F them. That was part of the document. This is a clear discrimination against minorities, especially the minority I'm talking about over here is the most, I shouldn't say the most, pretty important and pretty well respected minority group in our sport. Maybe it's like 1%, 2%. I don't know the percentage wise, but I don't know if you listened to the bylaw change special episode, but I kind of mentioned that the previous purpose of the organization from the bylaw, the current one, versus the new bylaw, the purpose of the organization they state is completely changed from member serving to the corporation serving.
Yeah.
And one of the opinions I said is like, this is kind of like South Korea versus North Korea.
Yeah.
And well, in USA, one of the great country, the minorities are accepted. Terms like LGBTQ, do you see them getting executed? No. Because you have a religion, do you get executed? No. How about some countries, like I said, North Korea? Minorities, yeah, gets executed.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not just existing. So in this kind of case, clear discrimination against minorities leads into very detrimental status.
Well, I don't think they're going to execute us, Mr. Kim.
Yeah, it's not that. Yeah.
Rhetorically,
Yeah,
they've executed
I hear
us.
what you're saying, and you're not wrong. I mean, listen, for years, the organization, the board, the organization as a whole has always complained that there's not enough members represented in elections, represented in anything really. I mean, the elections always pull low numbers, and that's always been a complaint. But now people are actually, like you said, people are actually starting to get involved. They're starting to get digging into some of the facts and digging into some of these, these details that they would have otherwise ignored before. They're starting to say something, and now, and if they believe in a certain way, if they believe, and clearly, according to these comments, it sounds like they're kind of leaning towards.
Oh yeah, yeah. Phil, I have to tell you, I am seriously fucking these guys up, my man.
What's that?
Sorry. I'm seriously fucking them up, my man.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing to me is that, let's say the bylaw changes are entirely good and proper. They should be instituted. Any dissent is wrong-headed. Well, you still have the perception or PR problem that the board just seems willing or fit to ignore, regardless of whether the changes are good. You have the membership. I would say the majority of the active membership in opposition to this, but it's not being addressed. Like you said on the USPSA podcast, we get talking points, we get the canned response.
They won't, dude. I'll tell you this: you listen to the "Go Fast, Don't Suck" with Ted Murphy on there. When something even sort of a tangential question to this came up, Ted acted confused about the emails he was getting. He acted confused, like, well, they used to be saying they wanted a weak president, and now they're saying they want a strong president. I'm kind of confused. Like, yeah, I'm sure that's what people are emailing you, Ted. He also said that a lot of the emails were worded the same. Like, he was kind of clearly hinting that he thought that we had a centralized campaign to tell people what to write. That's not true. Everybody's looking at the facts, and they're drawing basically the same conclusion and sending it in, and it's being discounted on that basis that the emails are similar. At least that's how I took Ted's comments to me.
Well, yeah, I'm seeing that. There are many ways that the comments and the feedback is being and will be discounted. My thing is, if you have a platform, you do, we do when we get together and talk about this, a sizable number of people watch this, and you have followers on Instagram, and having a platform doesn't invalidate the argument. Being a top shooter doesn't invalidate the argument. The only counter argument I'm seeing proposed is that, well, these GMs just want to run the sport, and you're not listening. You're not listening. Listen to what we say. But
I'm fine with them having an election, and then everybody gets to vote, and kind of the chips fall where they may. I'm fine with that.
Why are top shooters classified? Here's why. Question was going to be, why are top shooters classified as such a negative for the sport? And again, it's this whole us versus them mentality where a lot of the ROs, a lot of the the people that run the matches, they see us as the gamers and that kind of thing. But the fact of the matter is if you've attained a level of competency in this sport to be a top shooter, and let's say, top shooter doesn't mean let's face it, there's 30 top shooters. okay, let's just be real clear. There's 20 or 30. There's 3,000 that are viewed as top shooters because they have a master or grandmaster card, right? So they're, be that as it may, if you've attained that level of top shooting, that means you had a love for the sport. That means you have a passion for it. So that seems to me, the more involved you are, and the more time and effort you've put into attaining some sort of level of ability in the sport, I think that is a more amenable trait than anything. I mean, obviously, if you're doing the work and I'm still an RO, I'm still maintaining my RO status. I do help at matches. That's also important, but I don't understand why top shooters are always looked at as the enemy in the sport. I've never gotten that, and I never look at it that way. Now there are some top shooters that do fit the mold of some of the.
Yeah, Matt is that. Oh yeah.
Yeah. There are some top shooters who do fit the mold, and I do understand it to a degree, but it doesn't speak for all of them. And I don't know, man. It's just, I get more frustrated the more I talk about it. The more I talk about it, the more I think about running again. Sorry, Matt. I would think about it, but I can't. I couldn't. It's completely up in the air. How are you not a nervous wreck? I mean, you don't know what position you're running for yet.
I have literally no idea.
Well, it sounds like they're going to have it set up so that it's going to be extremely difficult for a guy who needs to have a full-time job to do this job on top of it.
You're going to travel all the time. You're going to be working 40 hours a week, and we're going to pay you a part-time salary. And it said that in the bylaws. It would be traveling to every match or every area match or something. That's ridiculous.
They didn't include area matches, all national level matches, and any international matches hosted inside the U.S.
That's not too bad.
Well,
I actually looked it up. It's about 71 nights of travel just for those matches.
71 nights of travel for a part-time gig.
That's crazy.
The funny thing was that this was the argument was we have to do this before the election because we have to clarify this position. We have to make sure the people interested have a good understanding of the expectations before running. And I think you tell me, Matt, you're a candidate, potential candidate. Have you gained any clarity through this process? And you're on the board. Like you're not an outsider who's
I
thinking
definitely
about
have more
running.
clarity than everybody else, I think, just because I am on the board and I hear and see conversations about this.
Oh shit.
But I mean, nothing is finalized at all. There's been no finalization of what they're going to require the person to do or anything like that. So, or what even the pay is. I have no idea.
In my heart, I want to believe, like I said, I want to believe that the board is shell shocked from the I gotta put this from the unexpected turn of events that came from the president that they backed, and I think that has scared them into and scare them into believing that what they're doing is protecting the organization from a possibly bad president. And I just don't think they understand that, look, it's an elected position. And whether anyone wants to believe it or not, and I'm sure I'll catch some hell for saying this, elections are typically based on name recognition, aka popularity. Okay. And I think that also scares them because if someone of an extremely recognizable name turns out to be a nitwit and not a leader, that's worrisome for them. So I want to believe that's kind of why they're going in that direction. It's just the timing is so suspect, and the way it's going through, it doesn't smell right. You know what I mean? It just doesn't smell right.
Well, you read the Bruce 1 memo, I assume? So,
I did. I
mean, you got to take him at his word, I suppose. I mean, the word that he wrote down, he didn't think you'd read, not what he put on Facebook and said about me.
Right.
Yeah, the stuff he didn't think you'd see, that's what I would listen to.
Well,
protecting the organization is not a bad thing at all. Yeah, protecting organization is good, but how the behavior is really important. Like how to come to that decision is very important. Interesting thing lately was I've been listening to many like the Bill Duda stuff, like Instagram Live, podcast, things like that. I've been noticing 3 patterns for the current board members right now. There are some that actively listens. So like when I go to the Instagram Live, I always see Matt Hopkins there. And there are some other area directors' name because I can check who's listening to that specific live. And I've been seeing some area directors actively engaging, actively listening to members. And there are some area directors I see passively listening, meaning unless somebody asks you something, you won't engage. And there's some area directors I also saw actively not listening, try to disengage with the members. And I think the very first one is essential to come to a good decision, actively listening to the members, actively engaging with the members.
Yeah. Well,
because like the all the area directors, I think, agree this is our sport, not one man's sport. And in order to have that, actively listening is important.
Listen, I think I'm not trying to defend the board here, but I will say that the position has changed a lot. An area director position is not the same as it was. It is. That's not my point. Yeah, I'll get to the point in a second. The position has changed in that back in the day, when I was Area 4 director, I'll say, or even while I was president, the area directors, the scrutiny they were under was have a good area match, give out your slots to nationals, or manage your national slots to your section coordinators, and manage your area. In a way that reflects on your match. Usually, that's how guys know that. That's how you kind of would sometimes classify how good an area director was doing was how good their match was. There was always strong and not as strong matches out there, and it was kind of reflective of the area director. And they never really had to listen to a lot of heat, because there was no forum for it like there is now. Now there's the area directors are under more scrutiny. They feel like, it was an easier position back then, and now they're getting their feet held to the fire. And I think that a lot of them are maybe reacting negatively to that. And, it's a tough job. It's not the job it used to be. And because of guys like you, and this is not a bad thing, they're being held accountable, and that's good. But I think they have to understand that.
They have not even just come out and addressed this head on. They haven't addressed it.
Right. Exactly right. And I think what was it? You guys watched Clear and Present Danger, right? You guys watched that movie with Harrison Ford? When they were talking about, the guy that was killed by the drug dealers who was friends of the president, and they were like trying to deflect. And
he's like, just stare into it.
Say you were friends. And if they ask, were you good friends? No, we were the best of friends. You don't give them anywhere to go. And I think heading it off the pass and saying, look, if the board were to say, look, it's okay. We made mistakes with the presidency. We made mistakes with the president, and it's on us, and we are moving forward amicably. And
the problem is, Phil, they can't take accountability, or they can't come out and they can't come and address this without admitting to lying about something. There's no way. I mean, either like if Foley was a problem for a while, and they acted like everything was fine.
I know.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you have to say that, like if that's the truth, just say it.
Well, it's sometimes coming clean isn't easy, and maybe a leap of faith is even if it's to say, listen, mistakes were made, and
we're going to initiate the election, and we hear you.
We're learning from mistakes. We hear what you're saying. We're going to, we've heard you about the bylaws, and this is a start of something. This is a start of a change that we want to try to implement USPSA. You listen. I'm a politician at heart. You guys know that. Yes. There's a way to make it work, but the problem is they're not politicians. They're guys who it's it could very easily turn into a good old boy mentality, or at least that's what it could look like from outsiders looking in, such as yourself. So I think, like you said, honesty, heading it off at the pass, and being very direct with the membership. You may take a few lumps, but guess what? Guess what's not going to change? The members, the organization will still stay on track, even if you admit to some mistakes.
So the healthy way
I'll
to
tell
do
you this,
over
as
here,
a guy dishing out a lot of the lumps, they'll take a lot less lumps from me if they change course on this. Because like, again, like, what am I going to say? If they're like, yeah, we did X, Y, Z wrong, and this is what we're doing, I'd be like, okay, like, what am I going to
go? You got nowhere to go then. Now, then you got to talk about shooting.
As much as I would love to, sit and, attack Leighton and just beat on him, like, if, I can't really do that if he hears me.
You have to start talking about UFOs and shit like that.
Yeah, the right way to do over here. So as the sport and the organization grows, like, clearly the member number is a lot higher than before. The responsibility of the people in authority grows, and to lessen that responsibility is not to take power away from the members, but actually share the power with the members. So the people in authority, like the board member, doesn't have as much responsibility. But right now, it's going the total opposite direction, to take power away from the members and then try to have them control. In this kind of case, the organization is not going to be healthy.
Right.
Because the growth is not stopping.
The power of the membership is their representatives. I mean, the power is them being able to say what they want, and their representative, their area director, doing it. And like you said, the way you take that power away is by disregarding everything they say in the first place. So that can't happen. And like I said, short term, yeah, we're still gonna have a nationals. We'll still have club matches. Long term, it's shit's gonna turn into a .com instead of a .org if we're not careful. And some people want that, because then it's one opinion. It's shut up and shoot.
I want to springboard off of this before we get too far removed from this Bruce 1 memo. Everyone talked a lot about that when it came out. The Instagram pundits and meme pages and everyone, and there's a lot of focus on the FU comment and the other substantive like structural changes proposed by Bruce. But one thing I haven't seen anyone talk about, and I think it's the most telling thing of all. There's a comment in there. There's a line that says, we, being the board, may have to take a more active oversight role in the short term. And the context of that comment was until the new managing director gets rolling. And to me, my question is, have you not been taking an active oversight role before?
No, they haven't been.
So, Phil, how long have you been in the sport?
28 years.
Wow.
In 28 years, have the bylaws always reflected that the board is the ultimate authority and the ultimate agenda setter in the sport?
Always.
Okay. And I've read the draft bylaws. They're still the ultimate agenda setter. The buck stops with the board, and it sounds like it always has. That was my understanding. So this ties into my earlier comment about the shell game. It seems like the front man, they want to, shift in and out and in and out. That way they can advocate their responsibility, not have to perform their active oversight duty. Just out of curiosity, in your time on the board, I mean, were they, as far as the oversight, the steering of the sport, was that an expectation that they had for you? Is that something that they delegated to you? Was that something that you saw them? Were they telling you, this is where we want the sport to go, this is what you are to implement?
No, I mean, I never got a collective, here, Phil, this is where we want the sport to be vibe ever. My responsibilities were, as the bylaws are written, were a lot less complicated. But part of that responsibility was to to promote the sport, to grow the organization, not to make it more money, but to grow the organization, to put the sport out in the public, to promote the shooting sports and safety and that kind of thing, and of course to run the nationals. And part of the steering the organization was to serve those mandates, not to make more money. It was just to make the matches better, to make the nationals better, to make the organization more conducive to being able to promote itself. I mean, Picking Up Steel Challenge was a step in the direction we wanted to go, because it expanded the shooting sports. It got out of what we were in, and it kind of expanded things out a little bit. So there was always a drive just to make the sport better as a whole, but it was never specifically like Hansel was saying. It was never specifically profit motivated. Now I'll tell you one of the things I really wanted to do, and I was hot on this for a while. I wanted to buy the U.S. Shooting Academy. Not a lot of people know that, but when the U.S. Shooting Academy failed, you guys know what this is. You've probably out there. When that place went under, it was purchased by some yokel. I don't remember his name, but he was in over his head, and he wanted to sell the entire campus outside of the little north ranges that the sheriff's office built. He was going to sell that place for $1.2 million. And all the work on the ranges, the big ranges down at the bottom, what used to be the Bianchi Cup ranges, they turned those into another 12 ranges. That had already been done. All the work had been done. That was the building, that was the office building, that was the maintenance building, and all the ranges and all the equipment for 1.2. And we had the money, and it got shot down immediately by everyone. But that was my goal. My long-term goal would have been, I really wanted to push that and make it happen, because having a centralized organization. Now Tulsa, they are better places, but as far as centrally located near an airport, hotels, infrastructure, a decent range, as long as you make sure the creek doesn't blow up a levee and flood the place, well laid out, and you'd be able to take your staff or hire new staff, that's the way it would be, and have them in a centralized location, and you'd be able to have a membership-driven range. You want to be a member of the the USPSA range, you join the organization, and you're a member, And I just saw that as a way to really centralize the sport, not have to deal with contracts anymore. You had a centralized location where you owned everything. And that was actually something I really wanted to push when I was president, but it got kiboshed pretty quickly. I think that would have been huge. I mean, again, is Tulsa the best area? I mean, I liked it, but I see the downsides to it. But still, having a dedicated facility for everything, that'd be amazing. I thought that'd be cool. But that was just that was something I was pushing. But obviously, I couldn't do it. I couldn't just do it. I still had to have the board to sign off on it, and they didn't. So, but it was like you said, it was a board decision. It wasn't a president decision. I was trying to implement it. I was trying to make the deal happen, and the board didn't have it. So that's how it's supposed to work, right? Just like it would work if they didn't change the bylaws. The board still runs the organization, no matter how you slice the pie. The board runs the organization.
Well, they want to run it without looking like they run it, as near as I can tell. So one thing, I kind of noticed this dynamic where it's like Troy comes up with a rule change, sends it to the board. The board votes unanimously for it. So if you say anything to Troy's like, well, the board voted for it. And if you talk to a board member about it, like, well, this was Troy's recommendation. And round we go. You can't, nobody takes accountability for anything. And one thing I'm noticing that's kind of interesting is Matt's kind of breaking that. Like, he voted against the popper calibration thing. How much did you take any flack for that, Matt, on the board?
No, really, not that I can say.
Not that you can say?
No.
I don't understand that. I do not understand that rule change. I mean, I didn't understand half of the rule changes they made, but that had to have been one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I don't understand.
Well, they acknowledged they had to change the rules, but they had to change it in a way where they never admitted they were wrong in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, look, I've said this and when JJ got, who was JJ got screwed over last year on the popper?
Yeah.
And look, I agree that if your ammo is making a power factor and you have a very clear hit on the scoring circle of the popper, and then an RO comes by and shoots it and it falls over, there's something inherently wrong with that. But my question to them, because they came, listen, when that happened, who do you think caught all of it? I mean, I caught it all. What would you do?
Hopefully you, Phil.
How old? 50. Shut up. I mean, I was the oldest guy on the squad, probably. But they all came to me saying, well, what, don't you think this should be changed to this and this and this? And they were like saying, if you just hit it, it should be good. I said, well, how do you determine a hit? And how do you determine the circle? How do you know? Do you have an overlay on it? I said, look, I understand what you're saying, but you have to understand that you're going to be going down a rabbit hole here if you're not careful on how the change would be implemented. Is it a full bullet diameter on the popper? How do you determine that? There's a lot of subjectivity that could lead to this being done the way they wanted it, which is, if you hit the popper in the scoring circle or above and it doesn't fall, automatic reshoot. Kind of like the plates, when we had the plate calibration, they changed to that. So yes, I agree that the new rule, calibrating it twice, I do not understand it. Maybe it takes someone smarter than me to explain it to me to where I do understand it. But going the other way,
I think it would take someone a lot dumber to explain it.
Yeah, but going the other way, going the opposite direction, saying if you hit it and it doesn't fall, it's a reshoot. Well, you have to be very specific on how you're going to determine if the popper was hit. 95% of the time, it's going to be an easy call. Yeah, there's a bullet, there's a mark on the steel, it's painted, and you're good to go. And obviously, you would have to probably make some sort of level 1 exemption because they're not going to be painting the steel after every shooter and that kind of thing. I get it, but yeah, there was a way to do it, and that was definitely not the way to do it. Just like the flashlight thing. I mean, why wouldn't you just make that a level 1 exemption and just be done with it? I was at my wit's end when all that crap started happening with production going down the tubes. And
I do have a question because we touched on it earlier about the, let me call it consensus culture in the board, because
that's the culture Ted was talking about.
I'm curious between your tenure and Foley's, because it seemed to be that they put a high value, or they seem to put a high value on driving consensus, because I remember maybe one vote during his tenure that wasn't unanimous, and I'm just curious to know if you saw a similar thing from your board or boards throughout your tenure. Is there a high drive to make it unanimous, to reach a consensus? Because to me, healthy debate is healthy inherently. It helps you clarify, it helps you get to the best ideas possible. It serves as a filter. And to me, seeing what I saw from the board and Foley administration, I mean, it's all unanimous. Yeah. Everything.
Except for Tony Cowden.
The flashlight,
right, and that's the one I'm thinking of.
Bruce one was leading unanimous. The charge to not ban Tony.
The flashlight wasn't unanimous.
Right, oh, that's right.
That's true.
There were two people that voted against it.
Yeah, it was
Ted and Chad.
Who?
Ted, Murphy, and Chad.
Yeah,
Chad Stanton.
Yeah, I listen. Whenever I proposed a vote or proposed a subject to be voted on, I gave my opinion. I tried to play devil's advocate, and listen, I was passionate about everything that I did when I was with USPSA. I'm passionate now about everything I do for 6 Hour, and everything I do within USPSA as a member in an RO. I'm very passionate about everything I do, as you all know, because you all know me. But I would never get to the point where I would make it my agenda and force the issue. I would simply, here's why I think this is a good idea. It was the same thing with carry optics. Some people thought I was crazy when I suggested carry optics. And because of what I did and my part and place in the industry and that kind of thing, I knew it was going to be a thing. It was inevitable. And
You had your job at SIG lined up so you could get that 320 out there, right?
yeah, yes, I did. 3 years later, I figured Remington was going to fire me, or 2 years later, whatever it was. That worked out okay. But yeah, I see what you're saying, but no, there was never a push to make everyone get on board. In fact, there was a lot of votes that a lot of the agenda items that I suggested got shot down, and sometimes that's the way it is. And
you had some drama on the board too, yeah?
all the time.
No, but like Jay Corn, the Area 6 director for a while, that was during your tenure, wasn't it?
It was.
When he kind of imploded along the same lines as Chuck, was my understanding.
Yeah. That was a mess. I still have all those files too, so I keep it all just in case. Yeah. I dealt with a lot of drama. I had area directors that got in over their head. They didn't want to do it. They just quit. I had area directors that got mad because things didn't go their way and quit. I had area directors that that were just past their tenure and they didn't want to run again. So yeah, it was tough, man. Like I said, I had one board member from start to finish that didn't change. That was it. So it was hard to get things done. It was a challenge, and I still think we did good. I mean, we had great matches. We had great nationals. We had our membership climbed, so everything was fine. It was a lot of work. And God, I wish I could have. I like to think, and I'm not tooting my own horn or anything here, but I like to think that if I had been given the opportunities and been put in the position that Mike was put in, I like to think that I could have gotten a lot accomplished. Again, it would have been really nice to be able to engage 100% of the job, to actually talk to people online, and to do that part of it would have been awesome. I would have really enjoyed it. And it saddened me that that Mike, it got to his head. I think the position and being overly involved, or being involved and being that deep into it, it got to him. I don't know what kind of person he was when he got elected. I really didn't know him that well, but I can't imagine it was an easy job for him and it clearly didn't. It had some effect on him. But I feel like I would have done really well at that, because I would have loved to have been all in like that. It would have been great. And I hope that if they keep the position the same, and if Matt gets elected, I think I look forward to seeing what'll happen. I mean, honestly, listen, I nothing against Matt or anything, but I don't think the organization's going to. It's not like the organization's just going to turn around and be completely ludicrous. I just think I think Nationals are still going to be good. Let's face it. I mean, Nationals weren't horrible over the last few years. There were some horrible things about them, like not having food and bathrooms and certain things. There are certain aspects of the match.
Enough bays.
Not enough bays. But again, the match happened, and it wasn't horrible. There have been some horrible Nationals.
Which direction do you see this thing going? Like, you think there's any for sure not a probability. I don't see any possibility of the board changing their mind at this point.
I don't I don't know. I just I want to believe that they'll listen to the comments, which have undoubtedly been strongly against changing the bylaws before the election. If that's the case, I have to have faith that they're going to do what their, although it's a small percentage of the membership, what their vocal howler monkey membership is going to want them to do. I hate to say that I'm one of those howler monkeys, but look, no one's called me. Lee Cabana has not called me to say, what do you think? That always bugged me, by the way. When I got elected president, Mike Voigt and I were in a very heated battle for the presidency. No one thought he would ever get voted out, so it was heated. We didn't hate each other. I mean, we were friends. But after I got elected, I talked to Mike monthly. I mean, I was always on the phone with him because I valued his experience And like, love him or hate him, the guy was solid. He didn't take shit from the board. They didn't let them bully him. And he was awesome. And I called him all the time when I had things I wasn't sure about or wanted some advice. I got that many calls from the president that followed me because I was, like you said, I was deemed a bad president because I wasn't cussing people out and banning them on internet forums or whatever. So I never was approached with that, and I'm not saying that Lee should be calling me and asking me for advice because but he's not.
Well, he should call someone. I listened to his Go Fast Down Second interview. The guy's a walking, talking dial tone. Yeah,
he's a nice guy. I just I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's what they're doing right now is not nice. It's not
nice to you.
Well, it's not nice to me, but it's not really nice to the members to be sitting there and bullshitting them still. It's kind of like,
yeah,
are you guys seriously not going to I can understand them fucking me over. I get that, believe me. But it's the lying to everyone else about it. It's kind of weird.
Listen, you got to have faith. You got to keep faith in the system. You got to keep faith in your elected leaders. And I want to believe that if the engaged membership is saying that they don't want these bylaws changed, and I understand why they wouldn't. It doesn't add up. It doesn't smell right. And if the membership is saying that, the majority of the people are saying that, I have to believe that they're going to do what the majority says. I don't want to be the guy that says they're not going to listen to us. Now, if they don't, well, then that presents a new problem. That presents some challenges for the membership and the organization, because now the membership, at least the vocal ones, are going to start to believe that their voice doesn't matter, and and they're going to go right down that North Korea, South Korea road, right? Executions will start.
Yes, I feel like that they'll be very motivated to vote, and it doesn't take many votes to swing elections, as you pointed out, because nobody votes.
Right. Well, not a large enough percentage anyway, but I don't know, man.
Area that actually voted in the recent was 30%.
That's not bad.
It's like 25 for president. So
yeah, I have faith they're going to do what the membership wants them to do. I think you guys, and others like you all have shed too much light on the questionability of what's going on. And I think that may have gotten more people involved in the organization. I mean, look, it motivated USPSA to start a podcast, which I completely agree with, as long as, like we mentioned, it's transparent and it takes questions and answers. That would be a big one. Let's take some questions,
real questions?
Real ones, yeah. Force your membership to get involved and ask the hard questions. Listen, when you interviewed me as president, right?
Yeah.
I didn't avoid any questions you asked.
No, you didn't. No, the attitude was very different back then.
So you got to just be direct, be honest. Sometimes you're going to get tough questions. You have to be prepared to answer them in a way that's going to, listen, sometimes it's going to upset some people, sometimes it won't. But as long as you're doing what you think is right and what the majority of your membership wants you to say, because listen, there's going to be a lot of times where the majority of the membership, when I was running for Area 4 director, I really wanted to get rid of the targets with the heads on. I wanted to grow the sport in that direction, because no matter what you say, people, as long as you're shooting targets with heads on them, it's going to be viewed as a defensive sport. Defensive sports, they don't get the most, support from the industry outside of shooting. And I was trying to grow. I wanted to get sponsors like Coca-Cola, and I wanted to make it kind of a big thing. And I wanted to get rid of head targets. That got kiboshed by the membership. People wanted to keep their roots. Whatever, and a target's a target. But that was one of those things. I was passionate about it, but sometimes the membership isn't going to feel the way you feel, and you have to accept that. And as long as our leadership is willing to accept what the members want, even if it goes against their morals and what they think is best for the sport, then it's the way it is. Accept it.
So what the members should do right now to lead the organization to the right direction is to do basically like the league document. One of the first things it says is, frankly, I don't think most of our members will care. That's one of the sentences in the document. And us as a member, we have to make that opposite. What it means is members starts to care, and then the minority, which is hollow monkeys or people who actually speak out, minority has to be majority to be able to change this, meaning members start to speak and care.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all the members in our sport, or at least most members, love the sport, love shooting part, and love the community part. And now it's time to care about the actual organization part of it too, and start speaking out. And yeah, minority becomes majority.
Yeah.
It'll change.
I'm very confident, like looking at this, like just getting people to have a conversation about this stuff. This is why I feel the trolling, the memes, the provocation, by sort of forcing a confrontation, forcing the conversation to happen. I know the more people that talk about this, I know what direction they're going to go.
Of
Like,
course.
they're gonna see things for how they are, and they're probably not going to like it.
Right. And you're not wrong. And H1, you make a good point, but I will say this. I don't disagree to an extent with what they said, because I know a lot of people who are members, they don't care.
No, they're not wrong. This is what we've trained them. We've trained the board for the last 5 years at least, where it's like they do something we don't like, and they've trained us too. Like we email them, they blow us off, nothing happens, and then you're just like, oh, okay, I don't care. Like I learned a long time ago, my AD doesn't care. He doesn't care what anybody says. It doesn't matter. So I don't bother emailing him.
Yeah, I shoot 4 club matches. Let's see, I shoot Berwick, Dunbarton, sometimes Harvard, and one other I can't remember. I shoot about 4 in my general area, and I can tell you, I'd say 70%, 60 to 70% of them, they don't care. They don't care. They just want to keep going to the club matches and shoot. But that kind of goes back to what I was saying. And I can tell you that I'll use her as an example. I'll mention her name. Hope she doesn't get mad. You all have heard of Devin McManus, right? Devin McManus, great girl, super sweet. She's really involved in the sport now. But I bet you, I would be willing to bet, you rewind back to her first month in competitive shooting, she wouldn't care either. She's like, I don't care about all that. I just want to come shoot. I just want to come shoot and get better and do that kind of thing. But as she got involved, as she started to, because I think you might be mistaken, H1, in that, I love saying his name, H1. I think you may be mistaken in that the majority of the membership love the sport. I don't think that's true. I think a majority of the membership love shooting, and as they become more involved in the shooting, they either, and like Devin's case, she wanted to get really good, and she took a lot of classes, and she's improved quite a bit. But she also got more involved in the sport. She started becoming active as an RO, and now she's a CRO, and now she's basically running matches now. And because of that involvement, because of her love for the shooting part of it, she learned more about the sport, got more involved, and now she has developed a love for the sport. And so in that respect, I think if you take that love for the shooting and let it foster what will eventually turn into a love for the sport, you're right. That minority will transform to a majority or someone who's more vocal. But like, as we all know, those people will eventually start to fall out and find other hobbies, and then you'll get a new group of people. And of those, 100 people that get involved in the sport, 20 or 30 of them may become more involved and start shooting majors. People who shoot majors, people who get involved and become ROs or get really passionate about the sport, they are the people that want to be more vocal and want to find out what's going on. So you're not wrong, but I still think, like I said, the board is kind of expecting that large base of shooters that constantly churning lower base, they don't care, and they're probably not wrong. They just want to go shoot their 3 club matches a year, maybe go shoot area 7, or in our, y'all's case, area 1 or 6 or 3 or whatever the case may be. So I don't think you're wrong. I just think I think the passion for the shooting will eventually evolve into passion for the sport. Enough of a passion to get involved at this level, at y'all's level, like involved in the politics of it. But I don't think you're wrong. But
So that's a
Well,
good homework to develop the right system to help
Right.
people love the sport better. Yeah.
exactly. And you guys, and guys like us, are instrumental in making that happen. It took someone like, I wouldn't say like someone like me, as in not my skill level or involvement, but my experience in the game. It took someone like that to take, let's say, Devin, and get her up to that point. You know, she was introduced to the sport through someone. She had to have been, right?
Yeah.
And she probably, kept moving up to the sport because of an influence. If the influencers, we call them influencers, I hate that name, but if the influencers are now becoming poisoned because of a bad decision that their representatives are making, listen, it's going to spread. It's like cancer. It's going to spread, and it's going to affect the organization in the long term. And I think the board has to understand that. They got to. If they don't, it's just going to, things are going to go downhill quick. Does that make sense? Does that sound?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like we're all doing exactly what we've been told to do, which is shoot majors, go to nationals, get your RO cert, work your state match, work, do this, help set up, do more, run for AD, but we've done everything you've asked. We're involved. We love the sport. We've invested enormously into it, time, money, effort. I've done what you asked. Now don't invalidate my opinion, because I've done what you like. I've gotten involved. I love the sport. I love the competition aspect, because I'm a competitor first, and I care deeply about the competitive equity issues, the excellence in nationals, the excellence in level 2s and 3s. Again, I'm trying to thread that needle where it's not an elitist thing, or even could be construed as elitist, but I've done what you wanted. I have an opinion. Like-minded people seem to agree, but you want to.
Can I talk about elitism, Tyler?
What you did wrong, Tyler, though, what you did wrong is you became a top shooter at the same time.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. I can't fathom how, if I were C class and did the same things I do, my RO cert and helping set up at locals, and one day I'll tell you, my personal aspiration is I want to become an RM. I think I care deeply about officiating because I'm a shooter first, and I know how much it matters. I want to become an RM. One day I'm going to run for Area 6. Not I don't know when that is, but one day. So I'm doing what you asked. Why is my opinion only valid if I were doing this as a C-class person versus a GM person?
I think you're getting sucked into the terminology, Tyler. It's because, like, your opinion's not valid no matter what. It's just who you are is going to determine why it's not valid. If you volunteer, you don't volunteer enough. If you're, a CRO, you haven't worked nationals as a CRO. If you're, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, it's always something. And if you're a top shooter, well, it's because of that. If it's because you've only been shooting for 6 months, it's because of that. Friends with me, actually, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a reason to invalidate everybody's opinion. And it's like they start from a place of, well, we're not going to listen to their opinion. I don't even think they're really conscious of this, but they invalidate everybody's opinion.
They're conscious. They're listening to this. I guarantee.
Oh yeah, they listen to every word. It drives them fucking nuts.
They're going to listen to this, and I don't know. I mean, I probably won't get through. They'll probably just say, "Oh, he's one of Ben's boys," which it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I love you. I think you're.
No.
Funny. I'm not one of your boys, but
Phil, I just want to say this. I don't have boys. I don't have people I direct to do shit.
Come on.
I'm serious. Like, people are just posting this shit on their own. I signal boost it, but I'm not bringing down this shitstorm on them.
You got so many groupies.
I don't tell them to do shit. I don't have to. They see what's going on and they know what to do. But none of them are my boys, really. Like, do I like message you, Juanzek, and be like, no, go shit on the board on Facebook or something?
No.
Like, no, I don't do that.
I'm kidding.
I don't do that.
Jesus, she's so sensitive.
No, I want the board to know that those comments are organic, Phil. That's what I'm saying. As much as I like the idea in their head of being this like, you know, supervillain or something, like sending trolls at them at my direction. Like, that's not what's happening.
Well, you're just able to sift through the BS, and you're not afraid to put a spotlight on it. And I get that. That's cool.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Tyler, you were going somewhere else.
Well, no, I mean, and I only say this because that's the undercurrent out there. It's the minority view, but that is the undercurrent. You know, they would rather we quit. I believe that they would rather we quit and not be.
No, they when they say, "Hey, go start your own organization," that's what they want me to do.
Well, right. I mean, you're right. They said it. Bruce one said it.
They want that.
So I
and
just
he doesn't care what that would do to USPSA at all.
I don't.
Because
I just don't understand that attitude. I mean, that seems self-defeating.
No, he would literally cut the baby in half, like, rather than let the other guy raise it. Literally.
So anyway,
it's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Solomon's story.
Yeah, it's true. That's how they think.
So we've been talking for
quite some time. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up, Phil. So
45 minutes. We haven't said one thing about shooting.
I told you this was all drama. Have I delivered?
This is good. I talked to Matt about if you get elected president, and of course I didn't know all this bylaw shit was changing. I said, get elected president and start cutting positions, take the salaries, and make area directors a paid position. Not full-time, but a paid position to give them some ownership in the organization, to give them some expected responsibilities. Because maybe, I don't know, maybe the area directors are not as, maybe they'd be more involved and more amenable if they were paid. I don't know. I always thought the area directors not getting paid was subpar, but I always mention that to him. I don't know what he thinks about that. But.
Well, we'd have to change the bylaws first because there's a bylaw that says that they can't be paid. So.
Well, yeah, they better change it now because it's going to take unanimous vote.
Oh, I haven't seen any comments. I think we maybe had one comment about that. There's been very brief talks about it. I haven't heard anything actual serious like that.
And you can talk about the feedback that's coming to you as a board member about these bylaw changes, Matt. It's been supportive or people not liking it?
I'd say 95% of the comments that I've seen and feedback that I've got have said to not do any of these changes and to have the special election. That's the stuff I've got.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
95. Wow.
I've got one more point I just thought of, and I know we're wrapping up, but
we are.
You know, it's 2022. IDPA just sent out a member survey. I think it was related to equipment rules. You know, that also would undercut this argument that, well, we're just not getting enough feedback, so I guess we'll have to do it our way. Unfortunately, you know, that's the approach they've taken, soliciting comments.
It's kabuki theater. They don't really care what you say.
It is. You know, you can send out a survey, easy peasy, and you can push it to every email address associated with active member in the organization.
Be careful what you wish for, Tyler, because they would just word the survey in a way to manufacture consent for the change.
Well, right. I mean, it's garbage in, garbage out, and the responses to a survey are going to include the people who don't care, the people who care little, the people who care a medium amount, the people who care a whole bunch. I still think the people who care a whole bunch, the ones who have already sent in a comment and will before the end of the comment period, those are probably the most valid. They're probably the largest stakeholders. It's, I would think, more reliable data. I'm just saying, if you want data, you can get more if you want it. But, you know, do you want it?
Yeah.
They don't.
Tyler, when are you going to start shooting again?
I mean, I don't know. I had a kid, so that's
that doesn't matter.
No, I'm gonna shoot this year. I'm gonna.
Good. All right.
And back out on the range. That's what I want to see.
I'm trying to clean house on all these dipshits for you, Phil.
Watching all those lame 3-second L pres drills you're doing. You can't do a 3-second L pres. Come on.
I can fuck
Jake
it up on
DeVito was
I
doing
can
those
fuck
back
it up
in
on
the
the
day.
internet for you. Yeah, that was a fun game when people were chasing that. Kim, do you have any last words, any comments?
Yeah, the organization is going through a huge transition. It's almost
Yeah.
like small tribe going now forming as a country, and members gotta raise the voice to whether if this big transition becoming a country, whether it be a democracy or communism or socialism, whatever.
If it was like a kid going through puberty, it's either a testosterone shot or hormone blockers. That's the choice we have, right? It's kind of like that. All right. Matt,
your account is getting deleted for sure.
Probably. Matt, you had any last words? I have to ask, maybe I've got to ask on the air. We got to ask tough questions. Did these guys ever apologize to you for the Bruce 1 memo?
No, no one ever did. No.
Because I can't imagine how fucking awkward that would be. Like, you see that, of course, you see that on the internet at the same time we do, I expect. It's like, what the hell? And these guys never address that with you. It's like someone farted and they just like pretend it didn't happen or something. Like, are you serious?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. No one ever apologized to me for that.
Yeah.
Hey, I never got an apology for the redacted part of that.
Oh yeah, the full Bruce 1 memo that I had for the video when it was where he took a dump on you, and he wanted to redact that because he knew that wouldn't be a popular thing to put out there. That was it.
Yeah.
He stands behind his opinion so much he can't even say like, yes, I did not approve of Phil, or yes, I did approve of Phil. That's got to get cut out there. That's not for public consumption.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
I think we were, in retrospect, Phil, I think we were too hard on you.
Well,
as president.
I understand the concern. I understood the concerns. Just a lot of people don't understand all the stuff that went on in the background, but I did the best I could.
Yes. All right, guys. Really appreciate it. Listeners, if you have questions you'd like the answer to, go find Phil on Facebook. Send him your questions. No, I'm just kidding. Go to benstugger.com. Send me your questions. We answer shooting questions too. Just go there, fire those questions off, and we'll get to you.